All right, welcome. Today, we're going to talk about something fundamental, something at the core of how modern apps work. We're going to connect two absolute powerhouses, React and Spring Boot. We'll see how they go from being two totally separate things into one seamless application. Let's jump right in. You ever wonder about that? You're on a website, you click a button, and bam, new information just shows up. Where did that come from? It really does feel like magic, right? But it's not. It's actually a very clever conversation that's happening just out of sight. Okay, so to really get this, let's think of it like a restaurant. The front end, that's our React app, is the dining room. It's everything you, the user, can see and touch. The menus, the tables, the nice lighting, all that stuff. Then you have the back end, our Spring Boot app. That's the kitchen. It's hidden away, and it's where all the food, all the data, is stored, processed, and cooked up. But here's the catch. The dining room and the kitchen, they're in totally separate worlds. A guest can't just walk into the kitchen and grab their own food. They can't talk to each other. So without some kind of connection, the front end is just a pretty but totally empty room. And the back end is a fully stocked kitchen with no one to cook for. So how do we get them talking? Well, it all has to start in the kitchen. The back end has to make the first move. It needs to set up a way to take orders from the dining room and send out dishes. It has to create the whole system for communication. And that system is what we call an API, or Application Programming Interface. In our restaurant, the API is really two things at once. It's the menu and the waiter. The menu tells the dining room what the kitchen can make. And the waiter is the formal process you have to go through to actually order it. It's basically the official set of rules for how these two are going to communicate. So check this out. This little snippet of code right here, that's the Spring Boot kitchen creating its very first menu item. That @get mapping line is basically telling the server, hey, if anyone, and I mean anyone, comes knocking at the door called /API greeting, I want you to give them this exact thing, a little message that says, hello from Spring Boot. Just like that. Our first dish is officially on the menu. Okay, but hold on. It's not quite that simple. There's a security guard at the restaurant door. Just because the kitchen has a menu, that doesn't mean anyone can just barge in off the street and start demanding food. You need permission to get past the bouncer. You see, browsers have this built-in security guard by default. It's a rule that says a website from one address, like our React app at localhost 3000, is not allowed to ask for data from a totally different address, like our Spring Boot kitchen at localhost 8080. And it's a good thing. It's there to stop shady websites from trying to steal data from your other open tabs. And the way we get past that guard is with something called CORS, which stands for Cross-Origin Resource Sharing. This is the official permission slip. It's the kitchen manager going up to the bouncer and saying, hey, see that app from over at address 3000? They're on the list. They're cool. You can let them talk to us. And you know what's wild? Getting this permission is as simple as adding this one line of code in Spring Boot. This @cross-originate thing is literally the permission slip. It tells the server, look, I'll accept requests, but only from the app running at HTTP localhost 3000. The front door is now unlocked, but we've only given a key to our React app. Okay, so the kitchen's open for business, the bouncer knows who to let in. Now it's time to head back over to the dining room and see how our front end finally gets to place an order. Over in our React app, we're going to use this function called fetch to make the call. And look closely at that address it's calling. It's the exact same address for the menu item our backend just created. It's like the customer is pointing right at the menu and saying, yep, I want that one. But, just asking for the food isn't enough. You got to be ready to actually catch it when the waiter brings it over. This next bit of code does exactly that. It says, okay, when that food, that data, comes back from the kitchen, I'm going to grab the message part of it and I'm going to put it on the plate, which means displaying it on the screen. And boom, it works. The message we created way back in the back-end kitchen is now showing up clear as day in our front-end dining room. The first conversation is complete. These two separate worlds are finally actually connected. But a real conversation isn't just one way, right? A good restaurant doesn't just have a fixed menu you read. What if you want to make a special request? What if you need to send your own information back to the kitchen? So this is where we need to talk about different kinds of requests. Everything we've done till now, that was a GET request. We were just getting stuff or reading the menu. To send brand new information, like if a user wants to save their name or post a comment, we use a POST request. This is like you, the customer, writing down a custom order and handing it to the waiter. Now, the code for this looks pretty similar, but with two huge differences. First, we have to tell it what we're doing. We explicitly say the method is POST. Second, we include a body, and that body, that's the actual order slip. It's the piece of paper that holds the data we're sending back to the kitchen, in this case, the name React. And just like that, we've come full circle. We've gone from two separate, quiet apps to a full-on two-way conversation. We have a complete connection. So let's just do a quick recap of the whole journey, right? First, the back-end kitchen put an item on the menu by creating an API endpoint. Second, it gave the dining room the secret password. That's the permission slip our core is setting. Third, the front end read the menu using a GET request. And finally, the front end placed its own custom order with a POST request. And that's it. That's the magic. What started out as two completely isolated applications, a lonely dining room and a quiet kitchen, are now one single, functional, full-stack application. They're working together in perfect harmony. You gotta remember, this connection, this conversation, it's the heart of pretty much every modern app you use every single day. Now you know the secret, the blueprint for how they all talk to each other. So the real question is, now that you know how to make them talk, what kind of amazing conversations are your apps gonna have? Thanks for joining this explainer.